Hello, Kendo Podcast episode 116. In this episode, I want to talk about Nito seminar. Welcome to Kendo Podcast Live for Patreons. 116. In this episode, I want to talk about Nito seminar, my experience at Nito seminar just held last week. And just in case, when was the last week? Let me see. 16th. I was in Idaho on 14th, 15th, 16th, and 17th of June. Okay, thanks to Strauss Sensei from Idaho Kendo Club, and of course Idaho Kendo Club members. This was excellent. Again, this is 11th Kendo seminar in America. No, Kendo seminar, Nito seminar in America, in the United States. I've been there. That was third, I think third time for me to be there. I was very, very happy to be there again, and also, I really appreciate their hard work to put this event together. And also, from Japan, without these senseis, we cannot do this seminar. Fuji Sensei 8th Dan and Ugajin Sensei 7th Dan and Wada Sensei 7th Dan and Kisa Sensei 7th Dan and Ako Sensei, Fuji Ako Sensei 6th Dan. Without them, we couldn't even have Nito Camp. And also, I had as my roommate Ando Sensei from Alaska. I met him, and it was my first time. He was great guy and great sensei. And Kajistani Sensei was there, and Seth Harris Sensei from Hawaii. It's all great people, all great Nito people from all over the world, and Ito people as well. And also, I met for the first time Bruce from Patreon. That was very nice to finally meet you in person, and Udin-san from Chicago as well as Patreon. Good to see, and good luck with your sixth exam. Okay, now Nito seminar, and Toda Sensei was there for 2 years, I think, but unfortunately he couldn't make it the third time because he passed away before that. As Toda Sensei says, ichi ni ichijo. That means Ito, Nito are the same. A lot of people think that they are different. Of course, technique-wise, you really have to adjust yourself. Of course, you have two swords in your two swords, one each hand. So it is hard to manipulate, how to control your hands, right? One up here and a strike, where you have to do different things with both hands, right? So it is hard. But I think it's good for your brain. That's one. But the way you do tenouchi and everything else is the same. Blade kendo is follows the what do you call it? The blade katana principle of katana, right? Principles of katana. So you have to strike with the correct angle, and without that, it's not kendo. So, of course, Nito has to follow that principle. So, in everything else is the same, just two hands, and that's all. You have to learn how to use your body, right? It's not because of Nito or you need different techniques. You just have to know how to control your body. To do so, you have to learn how to grab your sword properly, same as Ito, right? So Ito is one sword, by the way. Nito is two swords. So it is very important. And then also Musashi says, Miyamoto Musashi in his the famous book, Gorin no Sho, the Book of Five Rings. And by the way, I think Alex Bennett sensei will publish, probably has published already. I don't know. You have to check at Amazon.com or something. Um, he will publish his new translation book on Book of Five Rings. So check it out. Of course, if you know him, he can read all Japanese, which is almost Chinese, without doing anything. Just he can read it. All right. So his translation is bloody good. So you should get it. Anyway, so in Musashi says that you should be able to use one sword with one hand. So in case, so that's why you have to practice how to use sword with one hand, just in case you lose one hand, maybe in a battlefield, which makes sense. And but anyway, of course, two swords. You you have two samurai used to have two swords. Why don't we use two swords at the same time, fighting against multiple people and a lot of people around you? That makes sense too. So to survive, you probably there will be a certain situation that you have to use a sword one hand. That's why not in our the time, but in his time, uh, it was great issue, right? So that's why he started to train himself. He started Nito, and then he was famous for that. Okay, anyway, so Nito and Ito are the same thing. And I believe Kendo is unlimited. We don't need to limit Kendo, right? We have to, well, it was unlimited before, but kind of because we lose those techniques. I talked about this because of the Shiai oriented way. The Shiai oriented Kendo has to choose particular techniques to win. So a lot of old techniques which are used in old days are disappearing because they are not very effective in Shiai. All right, now I understand that. If you don't, back in old days, I'm sure as well, if you don't use techniques that will make you live, you don't want to use it, right? So particular, they probably practice these techniques that will make you survive, not these techniques. You don't need techniques that will kill you, right? So that is like, it's natural selection. If you don't use it, you don't use it. If you don't, if those techniques don't make you win, why should you use it? Okay. But that is one perspective, and I understand that. But the other perspective is Kendo is cultural sport or Budo, right? It has cultural value and also historical value. That's another thing what a lot of Nito sensei thinks that way. Someone has to practice Nito because there it did exist, but then it was banned. I think the reason was, if I'm wrong, please correct me, and I apologize in advance. I think Nito was practiced by some people, but Nito was banned in Shiai because they win all the time, or they won all the time, or no one could beat them, or something like that. So, okay, in Shiai, let's ban it. Okay, no one can do it. Nito, and because no one knows how to fight it or how to use it or something. So for Shiai purpose, because Nito is hard to fight, let's do it, because and that way I don't lose. Maybe I can win because I take Nito. Well, that's a one way, right? One way to think. But actually, that's just what some people start Nito, and then that way, and that's fine. And I hope they change their mind, they change their thoughts a little bit, and go, okay, this has also cultural values, so we have to keep it, and then pass this on to the next generation. So I want them to think like that as well. So Nito and Ito should be the same. Sword technique should be the same. And unlimited. I think Kendo is unlimited. So by taking Nito, you're gonna learn different body movements that you don't really use with Ito. Because Ito is both hands and going forward. Nito is two hands. Going forward is a little bit harder. Well, like for example, you can strike kote man like with one hand, but not as fast as Ito. So that's why you need to learn how to use your sword one hand, how to use it more effective. So from that point of view, you can look at your own Ito techniques as well. And Ito, I'm sorry, I lost my voice at the training camp, the Nito camp, because I was translating for senseis, and then I had to shout at the very last seminar. I had to shout a lot because everyone was putting bogu on. We had three groups, and they were doing something else. And then, well, you know how loud Kendo is. So if I don't shout, my group cannot hear me. So I was shouting, and I lost my voice. So if you cannot hear me well, or if you don't like this voice, I'm sorry. Okay, so Kendo is unlimited. And because of Shiai Kendo, I shouldn't say because of Shiai, because people want to win in Shiai. Kendo is kind of getting faster and faster, and then very quick. And Kendo is almost this way, straight line, not sideways. So sideways movements are lost. I shouldn't say are lost completely. Some of the sideways movements are getting disappeared. Those techniques. Of course, when you get old, maybe you start thinking about it. The difference between Japanese people and Kendo late starters, non-Japanese people, or Japanese late starters as well. We don't get to learn those fast motion when we were young, right? And then Japanese people, they gradually learn Kendo that is appropriate for their age. So they have these the athletic phase, and then and old phase. So they have these phases. But Kendo late status, Japanese or non-Japanese, doesn't matter who you are, late status, we don't have this point. This phase, the first phase, learning athletic, young grasshopper, energetic Kendo. And then we have to start from there, from the middle maybe. So it's almost impossible to learn that athletic Kendo, right? And then when you get injured, you can't do it. When you get older, even when you don't get injured, some body parts are not really healthy. So you don't do that, right? So we have to do some other way. We have to learn Kendo with some other way. Nito can teach us how the body movements. So it is really important for everyone to know how to use our body in Kendo. So Nito really helps. Of course, you can do it Ito, Ito and sideways. And there are a lot of techniques to do that. And you can start learning that. But Nito, variations are like unlimited. You can have your right foot. Okay, I'm going to talk about the first. Generally speaking, I want to just share almost everything, not almost everything because time is limited. So I'm going to share what I learned. And then for Patreon, by the way, Patreons got 8. I have now 80 Patreons now. So I'm very, very thankful for the to Patreons. Thank you very much. And I hope everyone joins page my membership area, so that helps me to keep going as well, and then I can provide more information for you as well, and then for other people as well, in all over the world. So thank you very much. Well, anyway, I'm gonna just go everywhere now, but well, by the way, speaking of the Patreon or supporting people, Nito Camp, we they get 6 census from Japan. That's a lot of money. So please participate next year, or if you cannot participate, probably I'm sure your donation will be more than welcome, because it's very important to get them here and then share their information with us. And then as they are doing, Kendo as culture, Kendo as culture, we can receive their teachings. And then we can pass that to the next generation as well. So it's very, very important. And money is not everything, but money is necessary for a lot of things. So please consider to participate next year if you didn't this year. Well, anyway, so Nito and Ito is pretty much the same. For example, I'm going to share something quickly. What I don't have my, yeah, probably my sword is still in my bag. I'll be back quickly, okay? There you go. This is from my brother Alex Bennett. He gave this to me when we got together early this month. Okay, so anyway, now fingers, the tenouchi. We're told, probably you remember, or you learn how to grab your sword. All right. Now tenouchi, exactly the same. Okay, let's say your left nito is left hand is up, and kodachi, shoto is in your right hand. Okay. Now, for example, left nito. Okay. This is exactly what I grab my sword. Okay. You have to make V here. Okay. And also, by the way, Sakamoto Sensei from Chicago, 7th Dan, we called this part V, but he emailed us about what we really called here. But anyway, if I remember, I will share it with you too. Okay. So you grab these fingers. Some senses says 2 fingers, some senses with 3 fingers. I grab these. I use this little finger and ring finger really tight. Okay, and then these should be really loose. Otherwise, you're gonna stop your swing if this part is really tight. Okay, that's why it's like as you strike. I mean, that's why these fingers should be loose, so your shinai will have extra distance. So instead of here ending here, if you relax this and release this finger, okay, let's say point man instead of this point man. See how you can extend your shinai more. Okay, so make sure you do the grip. All right, and ito, you have to have because you don't have 2 hands to have good tenouchi, or the theme of the seminar became in the halfway through became sae, because sae is very difficult to create. Sae means sharpness. Easy translation, sharpness. So sharpness go. When you go, when you hear good man strike, for example, you go, ah, that right? Or kote, pok. We say pok in Japanese. Pa. You can hear good sound when your tenouchi or sae is good. If you have a strike with sae, creates good sound. But strike with no sae, all right? Probably you're familiar with it. Go, like a thump, or it's not crisp. you hear crisp, clear sound with good sai, good sai. But if you don't have sai, it go like that. Probably you can imagine what I'm saying. But anyway, so you have to create sai with one hand, which is very hard. But these fingers should be the same. Okay, same grip, nice and relaxed. Like you grab your sword with two hands, and then as you strike, right? These fingers pull, pull your sword with these fingers like that, and then push your sword with this is we said V part, but actually this part of your thumb, not thumb, palm. Okay, you push it. So I'm sorry, I'm not really good at this, but so pull with. So you gotta use this muscle. Pull with pull the sword with this hand, right? These fingers, and push with this part. All right. So not exactly that's what's, but you have to imagine you're doing uh, pull pull it up and push the sword down with this part, right? You can use that in one hand too. This is a control hand. You just shouldn't have a lot of power, right? Everyone knows that. But we still have to go like this. But with the left hand, if you left hand takes care of that, the right hand is just go helps the strikes even help the strike them even more side. Okay, so and then control the sword better. So if you think about it, Nito and Nito are the same. And of course, if you have sei Nito, I shouldn't have Migi Nito, right Nito, which is right hand up and left hand with shoto. Do the same thing with the right hand. Okay, so it doesn't matter what you do. The basic of the kendo is the same, right? And I'm going to talk detail from my perspective as Nito is. Nito, it will be, I think it's very important, especially if you're late starters. Nito will help you to understand how you should be using your body. It's not, you don't have to take Nito, but just learn how they move. Guys, and then how they move means how they use their body. So that might help your kendo a lot more. Of course, basic footwork's the same, right? Basic footwork's the same, and basic the way you do suburi is the same. Oh, regarding suburi, it's very important to know that also Fujii Sensei at the second dojo, Fujii Sensei was sharing his training method, and he said, this guy was asking if he should do suburi, how he should be doing suburi for Nito, and he goes, no, I don't do suburi. I go, why? Well, why shouldn't I do suburi for Nito? Well, I don't do suburi for Nito. And then the guy who asked, he looked so puzzled and really go, what? And he said, I don't do suburi, but I hit a target. So the reason he doesn't do suburi with one hand, because with one hand, you think about stopping. I think it's Nito as well. Ito as well. You have to you start thinking about stopping. But Ito, of course, Nito with one hand, strike doing suburi with one hand. You always have to start thinking about stopping, because otherwise you strike like that. It's harder to stop, and probably it will create a bad habit. But if you hit the target, actual target, you don't have to think about stopping. So when you do Suburi, I think that was a good point. Probably we should do that with Ito as well. But it's a good point is when you do Suburi, what are we doing? Are we doing, of course, we are practicing, we're training, but it's more importantly, we're checking our form. So you gotta do it slow. If you do it with one hand, Suburi, do it slow. Okay, this is good. Slowly and properly and pay attention to details. I think that's what is really Suburi is for. Okay, and then okay, if you want to change something, you got to do it slowly. Okay, have vivid image of your successful goal, and then make your Suburi closer and closer to the successful goal. So I think that's very important to do it slow. And then with target, you can go. Now, Nito is Fujii Sensei was saying you can with Ito you can go like that because you can actually stop with the right hand. Okay, so but Nito you can't really do that. So especially if you want to practice Suburi with one hand, use a target, and then like I said, sae tenouchi, you can practice sae like that as well. Do this. Okay, this is not good, and this is not good either. Okay, because if they were saying nukeru, you relax. Your strength should be going up forward, but if you go like that, your strength is the direction will be go up. Okay, and that means your strength gets weaker. So the whole direction of our force going towards our opponent. But if you do that, you're going up. So that's not good. So all the information is, from it was Nito Camp, but Nito's basics is Ito. So and some senses said maybe there are a lot of you. If you do Ito, you can do Nito. But if you can do Nito, it doesn't mean you can do Ito. Some senses said that. That was interesting too. So learn Ito first and learn Ito as you're supposed to learn, and then you can move on to Nito fairly easily. So like I said, Kendo is unlimited. You can go back and forth, back and forth. Kendo is culture as well. If you think, oh no, I just want to be competing part, I think that's okay too. But if you want to learn Kendo as a competitive Budo, and also with cultural value and historical values, you should try a lot of things. And if you try that, Kendo will become unlimited. Of course, Shiai has regulations, but so you have to follow regulations. Okay, Shiai have to be fair and square. And this is another. I'm going to finish. Okay, I'm going to finish. I'm sorry. Finish for the podcast part because I know you're busy, and then we're going to move on to Patreon only podcast from there. But the what was that? Yeah, if Kendo becomes Olympic sport, maybe Nito will be banned because it's not unfair. If you just think about fairness, 1 and 2, it doesn't seem fair. And also, some people ask, maybe some people wondering why this Ito strike cannot be Ippon. It can be Ippon. Regulation says it can, but usually not. I think it's because fair. No, I think Sensei says it's probably based on fairness. If you have 2 swords and you can go, basically, that increases the Ippon, getting Ippon. probabilities or possibilities twice as much. Right? Ippon. Ippon, right? So simply it increases the more opportunities to strike. Is it fair or not? Probably not. So on the fair basis, as a competitive sport, probably that's why shorter strikes has to be super good, and also probably that's why on the regulations is it shouldn't be a point. But as cultural value, like if you see me getting this Nito video, how to practice Nito, there's a technique like one here, right? So when I take Nito, I take Hidari Nito, so left hand up and right hand here. I'm gonna lift up my right hand higher than it should be because of the camera angle. So here they strike kote. Okay, they try to strike my left kote, and when I slide my sword to avoid kote cut, and what I do, they're striking here, right? Okay, you lower your sword, then they hit here. Okay, and kote nuki, and with a shorter strike man, kote nuki man, like that. All right, now I don't think it's gonna be ippon in shiai, but that's a technically you can do it as a like old technique or as a technique uh, passed on from the older generation. It's there, so you should practice that, even though it's not in ippon. And then probably you might think, why should I practice such techniques which are not going to be ippon in shiai? You got a point, but both ways. So if you practice kendo for shiai only, it doesn't make sense to you. But if you practice kendo for this cultural with cultural values and historical values, that's interesting technique to do. So it's both, always some controversial issues maybe, but as I think I like to keep those techniques because it's interesting and it's there. So I want to learn. And when I learn, I want to share that with my students as well. So, and then, like I said, Kendo is unlimited. Kendo shouldn't be restricted like that. So of course, I don't do foot sweeps or throw anymore. But I think there's some people say let's not talk about it because it's gonna be a different issue or a different argument again. But anyway, so if you think you need to learn some different techniques, even for your Ito Kendo, Nito will help you to go, aha, that's why. I really strongly recommend that you should participate Nito seminar, even if you don't take Nito. There are a lot of aha moments. All right, so I hope I'll see you next year there. And thank you for listening. And again, thank you for everyone, every participant, and every sensei there, and Idaho Kendo Club and Strauss Sensei to have this great seminar. And thank you, friends. And I'll see you next year at the Nito Camp again. And thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next podcast. Okay, my supporters at patreon.com. All right,